let's start to understand what exactly is the Holy Roman Empire. Charlemagne was crowned as the Holy Roman Emperor, while Otto the Great had it centered around Germany, which made it the Holy Roman Emperor. The HRE included Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Australia, Czech, Slovak republics, eastern France, northern Italy, Slovenia, and western Poland. The HRE got its name from the Roman Catholic Church and leaders wanting to gain greater power. This is also when the Reformation began to happen. The word holy came from the coronation of Otto the Great, from being one of the first true king and inheriting the Saxony from his father. The more important matter was how Pope John XII crowned him as a holy emperor as well. This specific empire was widespread and had many jigsaw pieces of countries coming together and going out again through the reign of many powerful leaders.
So, the biography of Charlemagne. Charlemagne was king and emperor, and his original name was Charles I, and he is also known as Charles the Great or Karl. And his birth date was April 2nd, 742 AD at Liege, Belgium. And his death was on January 28, 1814 AD at Aachen, Austrasia, which is now in Germany. Charlemagne's family. His parents weren't legally married at the time of his birth, but then they were legally married after his birth, which was on the time of his brother's birth. His father's name was Pepin the Short, and his mother was Bertrada of Laon, and his brother is Carloman I. He was married to 5 women, which made him had 5 spouses, and he had as many as 18 children. During the time of 768 to 1814 AD, he was king of the Franks, and during the time of 774 to 1814 AD, he was king of the Lombards, and lastly, during the time of 800 to 814 AD, he was first emperor of the Romans, or also known as the Holy Roman Empire.
Life story of Charlemagne. In 768, upon the death of Charlemagne's father, the kingdom of Francia is divided between Charlemagne and his brother Carloman. In 771, after the death of Carloman, Charlemagne became sole ruler of the Franconia. During 772 to 777, Charlemagne invaded the Saxons. The Saxon is a Germanic tribe of pagan worshippers. Charlemagne conquered Lombardy and became kings of Lombards during this time, and he began to construct a palace in Aachen. In 778, there is an unsuccessful siege of Saragossa, Spain, and is followed by an ambush of Charlemagne's retreating army by the Basques at Roncesvalles. This is the picture of Palace of Aachen. It is a group of buildings with residential, political, and religious purposes. Charlemagne chose this palace to be the center of power of the Carolingian Empire. The palace was located at the north of the current city of Aachen. In 781, he created a sub-kingdom of Aquitaine with his son Louis as king. From that base, Frankish forces mounted a series of campaigns that eventually established Frankish control over the Spanish March. The Spanish March is the territory lying between the Pyrenees and the Ebro River. In 782, at the massacre of Verdun, Charlemagne reportedly ordered the slaughter of 4,500 Saxons. He eventually forced the Saxons to convert to Christianity. He declared that anyone who did not get baptized or follow other Christian traditions will be put to death. During 787 to 788, Charlemagne take control of Bavaria and bringing all the territory of the Germanic tribes into one political unit. During 791 to 796, Charles conducts a series of campaigns against the Avars in present-day Austria and Hungary. The Avars are eventually destroyed as a cultural entity, and during this time period, the construction on the cathedral in Aachen begins. And during 799 to 800, Charlemagne reached the height of his power when he was crowned Emperor of the Romans by Pope Leo III on Christmas Day at Old St. Peter's Basilica. In 813, Charlemagne crowned his son Louis the Pious, King of Aquitaine, as co-emperor. He died in Aachen in 814. After he died, his empire encompassed much of Western Europe, and he had also ensured the survival of Christianity in the West. On this day, Charlemagne is referred to by some as the father of Europe.
So now it's Jenny's channel, and I'm still going to talk about Charlemagne, and I'm going to explain some of his influences and great significance. Okay, so Charlemagne is known for many reforms, including economy, religion, and education. So after the fall of the Roman Empire, it divided into several kingdoms, and Charlemagne came to power to become the emperor of the Franks. And he united most of the Western Europe and then established the Carolingian Empire. Carolingian means the period of Charlemagne. And he conquered much of the Saxon territory, expanding into what is today's Germany. As a result, he is considered the father of the Germanic monarchy. So look at the map here. The green part was Charlemagne's original kingdom, and then later he started to conquer the surrounding areas, such as Saxony, and he also subdued the city of Rome. So where's Rome? Rome is here. Here's Rome. And not only conquering, Charlemagne also spread the religion, Christianity. Christianity, such as the place of Saxony. This was a non-Christian tribe. How Charlemagne conquered them was asking them either to choose death or become Christian. So eventually Charlemagne subdued those lands and Christianized them. As a result, he spread the religion across Europe and consolidated people's faith. He reformed churches and strengthened power. In practice, he ordered to manage priests and he enhanced their skills. His authority was extended over each church and state. And also he brought the economic reform. So he made civil currency from gold, because before they were using gold coin for currency, but later they lacked gold. So because of the shortage of the gold, so Charlemagne removed the gold standard and established a new standard was based on a pound of silver. So he made the civil currency from gold standard. And in political reform, Charlemagne was a strong leader and a good administrator. As he took over territories, he would allow Frankish nobles to rule, but at the same time, he would also allow the local culture and law to remain. He had the law written and kept the record, and he took charge in judicial matters, and he made legislation, and he led the army and also protect the church. And in culture, Charlemagne originally interested in learning. So he enhanced
literacy of Latin. Charlemagne understood that people need to be united and speak common language, so Latin was a good choice. Later he made two types of Latin. One was classical Latin and another is common Latin. The classical Latin was used for government and church, and another is common Latin that was the language for ordinary people. So as a result, they had achieved the expansion of the educational system. At that time, most of people were illiterate. Therefore, Charlemagne created school, bringing his scholars together, and yeah. After the improvements and influence by Charlemagne, they had increased people to keep texts and manuscript so they could preserve those writings. So we see all these Charlemagne's great achievement. Apparently, he made everything clear and correct. Yeah, let me crown him. So of course, Charlemagne's achievement had influence until modern day, especially that people had increased in Christianity since that period until now. And also think in another way, if there was no Charlemagne and there was no such booming Holy Roman Empire, and if there was no Holy Roman Empire, then the kingdom would be a confusion.
So here are some additional information or fun facts about Charlemagne. So he left his empire to his son, Louis the Pyrrhus, because he had many sons, but he left it to this son specifically. And he was crowned the Holy Roman Emperor on Christmas Day. He was also nicknamed Father of Europe because he was the founding father of the French and the German monarchies. The currency was standardized in his empire, and they produced silver coinage that could be traded across the empire. And this was the first common currency on the continent since the Roman era. It was true that Charlemagne was king and emperor, but he dressed in common clothes, and he didn't dress as royal as we thought. And his given name, Karl, in German, means king. And lastly, his empire fell after him. So after Charlemagne died, not long after that, his empire also fell after his death.
Let's start with his notable family members. First is his father, Henry the Fowler. He was informed king when he was fixing his own bird nest. He's also the Duke of Saxony and started the Ottonian dynasty. Saxon people was in the northwest part of Germany. Next is his mother, Matilda. She's the first Ottonian queen. They fell into a relationship, and out came Otto I. He also inherited the Duke of Saxony from his father. Next is his brother, Henry, who wanted to hold a revolt against him to become king. Eventually, he died in his war. Jump backwards to 936 AD. He was crowned king. Otto I died due to fever.
Life of Otto I. King Otto to Otto the Emperor. 912 to 173. In August 7, 936, Otto was finally crowned king. Yay! And he was crowned by the German dukes when he was 23 years old. In the next year, Otto started to use his power. So he had a decision on having fierce control over the dukes. So a lot of people disagrees with that, especially the dukes. So Otto's half-brother Thankmar lead the people who disagrees with Otto to fight him, but they were quickly defeated. His half-brother Thankmar was killed, and some were deposed and submitted to the king. In 939 to 940, things starts happening. The Edward of Franconia, the Gaspard of both Arginio and Henry, which is Otto's younger brother, starts to revolt against him, and this time it is with a special guest help, as King Louis. With King Louis' help, they had more confidence, but in the battle, the Edhard was killed, and Gisbert was drowned while fleeing, and Henry was caught and submitted to Otto, and he was forgiven. But later on, Henry betrayed his brother again. He planned a murder with some other people, but then it was discovered. All of the people that were involved was punished, but Henry was forgiven again. And through this, he became loyal to his brother and received dukedom of Bavaria. So, now let's go to the next page. So, in 950 to 955, battles are still going on, and stuff just happens. So, during this time, Otto strengthened his defense and also expanded his kingdom. Otto defended the Slavs from the east and controlled a part of the Denmark. Prince Boleslav I was forced to submit to Otto and pay the tribute. This is when Otto had some trouble during rebellion. With a stronghold base, Otto cancelled France's claim for Lithuania and solved some French internal difficulties. Otto invaded Italy, seized the throne, and caught Princess Adela, which is the previous widow. And so on, Otto married Adela. While he's happy with everything, there's at the same time in Germany, Otto's son Wildolf with some other German magnates to revolt against the king. And this made Otto has to withdraw to Saxony. Battles are still going on, but later on Wildolf still had to submit to his father at last. Otto made Mejmar never invade Germany again, and made a lot of success in war, especially in fighting the Slavs. And this is King Otto. In 951 of May, Otto successfully made his 6-year-old son Otto, which is the first son with Edward, to be elected for the King of Germany. Yay! And later went back to Italy to help Pope John XI to fight against the Bavaria of Bavaria. And this is when he is with Edward. In 962, February 2nd, Otto was finally crowned emperor by John, and 11 days later, a treaty known as Privilegium Autorium was concluded. It is a treaty that regulates the relationships between the popes and the emperor, and it built up a Holy Roman Empire of the German nations. In 963, John loses its power of being a pope by Otto. So now another thing went to Otto again. He had to choose another pope to replace John. So Otto at first chose Leo to be the next pope, but since he died, so he had to choose another person. So John XIII has to be the next option, but he was not loved by the people, and the people had another candidate already. So revolt happens, and poor Otto had to come back to Italy again. And this time, he actually stayed in Italy for several years, dealing with the unrest with Rome and heading to south with the Byzantines controlled portions of Peninsula. In 967, he had his son crowned co-emperor with him, and it was on Christmas Day. Okay, I think he's a very great person on choosing dates. In 972 of April, the young Otto, which is the son of Otto the Great, finally had a marriage, and it was with the princess of Byzantine. Then the next year after that, Otto died. So I think my comments on Otto's life is that he can forgive one person, and his life is full of betrayals, and his life is full of battles, argues, and yeah.
The significance of Otto. So Otto strengthened and extended the frontiers of the kingdom of his foreign conquest. Otto's first campaign in Bohemia failed. Not until 950, Bohemia's Prince Boleslav I submitted and paid tribute after being forced. Otto strengthened his position but couldn't resist France's claims towards Lotharingia while acting as a mediator in France's internal troubles. He also extended his influence onwards Burgundy. In 951, Otto marched into Italy, assumed the title of King of the Lombards, and married the Burgundian princess Adelaide. Otto broke off his first Italian campaign because of the revolt in Germany and found himself to withdraw to Saxony. But the rebels started to worsen when the Magyars invaded Germany in 954. Son of Edith, Liudolf had to submit in 955, which made it possible for Otto to defeat the Magyars in the Battle of the Field in August 955. Otto and the Margrave Gero won a victory over the Slavs the same year.
Let's talk about the Reformation. So the main thing about the Reformation was started by how people saw the way the world worked and how religion was based on money and how the church was working in the wrong way. It required church authority and popes selling false information for a huge amount of money. Princes that governed the country were also sick of giving money to the church. It caused the prince to choose what religion they want. Now let's go all the way back to Ship of Fools, the first event in the Reformation and how the Reformation began to start. Ship of Fools is a German verse that calls for a main idea about foolishness. Around the Reformation, let's talk about the main character, Martin Luther King, that played a big part. Martin Luther King was also annoyed of how the church was working and decided to nail the 95 Theses on the Roman Catholic Church. He also protested in the front. He also got the printing press and translated many Bibles. Many German peasants were also inspired by his emotions towards how the church was working, and that was just the beginning of the Reformation. They began to call something called Lutheranism. As you can see, this took place around the end of the 1400s and around the 1500s. The last is the Council of Trent. The Council of Trent took the longest, and it's also called the Counter-Reformation because of how it turned on and off of responding and not responding and protesting. Throughout the Council of Trent, it was also where the church decided to respond towards the public, and people started to reform the way how it's supposed to be. So on the way they were supposed to be, they had stronger spirit, more educated people leading the church, and laws mainly based on Christianity.